So on the screen, we do have our raffle ticket QR codes. We will bring them up a few times tonight, so no pressure right now. But we have two QR codes, one for tonight's raffle. So we've got some tickets from Red Mountain. We've got a pass to Big Red Cats. We also have some hats and a shirt. And then if you wanted to enter into the big State of the Snowpack QR, that is for a Polaris sled, and that is closing here soon. So if you wanted to win a sled, enter to win. All right, so we have just our quick land acknowledgement for the Sinks people. We feel privileged and grateful to be here and honor the ongoing presence of the Sinks on this land. We are mindful of how we carry ourselves today as to demonstrate our intentions to honor this land, water, and all its beings. So what is State of the Snowpack? I do feel like almost everybody here has been to some before, but for those that haven't, we are community conversations, saving lives in the backcountry. So we are listening to those that are out doing the snowpack analysis and giving us updates on what's happening right in our backyard. We are hearing from the people that are on the ground, so we know how to be the safest while we are going and playing in the backcountry. I know there's not much left to play in, but for what is out there, and I know Kootenay Pass, still has snow, and even though there's no snow in Rossland, there is up higher. So these updates are really important, especially as coming into spring and lots of changes. So we've got a couple sponsors. So these are the sponsors for all of State of the Snowpack. So thank you to Helicat, Arc'teryx, Polaris for donating a sled, Hub, of course, as well. And then we have our local Rossland sponsors. So huge shout out, and please can we all give a round of applause to B&T's for hosting us. They've been super awesome and hosted us all season long. So thank you for letting us take over your bar a few nights a week and having these convos. We've also got, of course, Red Mountain, Big Red Cats with some tickets all season long. Team Giver. We've got Search and Rescue, Rossland Outdoor, and of course, Jerix. So already chatted about the Polaris sled and our prizes tonight. So we will, like I said, we will have these QR codes up a few times, but I'll give you guys a moment or two there. The Big Red Cats, I do believe we've already said they will push it to next year. You don't have to try to get on the Big Red Cats this year, unless you wanted to try. So end of the season, quick little update here as well. State of the Snowpack is hiring a fundraising and grant writing intern. So if that is something that interests you, you must be a student, but it is a paid internship. All their information is on their website. So if that's something that interests you, go check out State of the Snowpack website. Okay, so tonight for our snowpack presenter, we've got Lau coming from Red Mountain Resort. She's going to give us a lovely snowpack update. We're super excited to hear that one. And then we also have Anne-Marie coming, joining us from the emergency medical team. And she's going to have a little medical backcountry update for us. And we're super excited to have her up here as well. Awesome. So without further ado, we're going to invite Lau up to explain this really sad photo that we have on the screen and let us know what's going on. Let's give a big round of applause for Lau, please.
It's like the first snow we've had in so many weeks. I had to show it off. Okay, the State of the Snowpack. I don't know if you guys remember, but before Halloween, we had a big dump, and I was skiing in the Rossland Range in October, and I was like, this is gonna be the year. This is gonna be such a rad winter. Boy, was I wrong. and we don't see the map because it's backlit. But okay. So let's start with some data from this season compared to the last few seasons that we've had. I have a map here. Here we are, and this is the map that I'm gonna. This is the station I'm gonna show you guys. This is Farron. You can't really see the data, but you can see the lines. So the blue lines is where is this winter, and the green line is last winter. So this station is about like a little bit less than 100 kilometer, maybe like 70 kilometers north west of us. So it's a little bit higher, but it's a little bit further, but it's 1,200 meters. So it kind of shows like at 1,200 meters, we had a rough go at it this season. This is the manual weather station that we do at Red Mountain Resort. That's Nauber, one of the forecaster that goes every month and takes a water equivalency for the whole snowpack. You can't see the boxes, so we can't really tell you much right now. Can you guys see it, or is it just me? Nope, nothing. Let's move on. Once again, the map is not showing, but basically, it's just because it's light outside and it's backlit, so we can't see anything. But it's fine. Basically, red dot once again is where we are. This is this is the BC government that has a lot of data actually, if you know where to go for it. But if you just basically type in British Columbia weather station water equivalency, it gives you this whole like snow pillow website where you can see if you're going on a trip. It's pretty useful to see what kind of snow you're getting over there. So basically, I'm going to show you this station, which is at Barnes Creek, which is at 1,600 meters, and then East Creek, which is kind of just on the west side of the Purcell, the east side of the Purcells. So and towards the north, towards Revy, and there's quite a difference. So basically, that's what this winter was about. It was all about elevation. So here we are. Blue is this year, which is funny because considering that we are all saying that this year was worse than last year, but you just had to not be in Rossland. And then green is last year, and then the like pink one is the average for the last 75 years. And then this one is at 2,030 meters, kind of like higher up north, more towards Revelstoke, so we get it. They get better snow. But basically, this is us this year. This is last year, and this is the average. So it is a big snow year. It is a lot. It is a La Nina year. It's a lot of moisture in the Pacific coming through, lots of system. We just, I mean, I'm really like, the nail is already in the wood, but basically, like, we got donut hold is what we say at Red in the forecast team. And also we just didn't have the elevation to keep all that moisture in the snow form. So this is, yeah, it's just Rossland. Okay. So basically what happened this year, we had a lot of early season snow. Like I said, October, we had December. It was looking pretty okay. And then we had this warm spell in December, and it crushed our feelings. After that, so yeah, a couple of rain events uh, from December to January 13th. And then we had a couple of January, like, warm-up events. Like, we're kind of spring. It felt like spring already, and that is never a good feeling. And then we had a lot of, like, storm come in, but it would be warm, and then it would snow, and then right at the end it would turn to rain, or it would go really hot. So it was really the ski to storm kind of winter. Go out there, ski to storm as it's snowing, and then it warms up, and then it makes a crust. And yeah, there was a lot of that. And then we had the bulletproof crust of January 28. There was a lot of surface soil on top of it, but with the temperature we had, it metaformed really quickly into rounds. And then after that, yeah, Feb 7th, surface soil was a thing. Not a lot for Red itself, but it was for Big Red Cat, and it was for Kootenay Pass. Same for Feb 13. And then we have our wonderful March 9th that still rattles your knees at, like, today, even with the new snow. So that's pretty much what happened. So once again, December crusts. I had my level 2 at that period, and it was a lot to shovel, a lot of crust, a lot of density in the snowpack. Jan 28th, bulletproof crust, and then the surface ore layers, and then today's storm slab on top of March 9th. Any questions so far? No. Okay. Okay. Oh god, classic. You guys, is there a way to like? No, there's no way. There's absolutely no way. Okay. Well, this is a pit that we dug. You can't really see much, but basically, I'm just gonna mime it for you guys. Okay. Basically, from here, so the HS on this one, this was last week. HS on this one is 196. So we've got a bulletproof all the way to 70, 80 centimeters. Bulletproof bottom, lots of rounds, lots of yeah. It's mostly rounds, and then we've got a bit of a ice crust there, but all the way those are signs for rounds. So basically, just like the best kind of snow type that you can have, and then we move into a couple of crests, which is the mid pack. Here, I think I actually did a little cutesy animation here. Yeah. And then so in the middle from 80 to 60, we have a couple of crusts, and that's where the Jan 28, Feb 13, Feb 7th is chilling for the rest of the winter. And then so that's what I was saying about the bulletproof bottom. And then we've got the couple persistent weak layers that we've been observing all winter. And then we have this section, which is kind of what we're well, I mean, I don't know if I can say worried about, but this is what's been it's been active these days, right? We've got this bulletproof March 9th melt freeze crust. It's about like 10 centimeter thick, mostly on south aspects, a little bit less on north, but it's pretty much what it is. And then on top, depending on where you are, this one is at red, so there's only 30 on it. But I was looking at Kootenay Pass, and they have 60 to 80. So depending on where you are playing, you're definitely going to have this is what the snow is going to be moving on. It's that melt freeze crust. We haven't seen a lot of activity on it so far. Oh, we've seen a lot of activity further up north, but it's not necessarily on that one. It's just like on the atmospheric river event. But basically, what you're worried about if you're digging a pit is up to here, because we haven't been seeing a lot of tests on it that are reacting. Like the last 2 weeks, we've been testing the mid pack layers, and we've been having non-propagating results or really hard results, which means like 29 taps on your compression test, something like that. So it's on the dormant side for the mid pack. We haven't been really testing the upper stuff because this is kind of the first time that we're getting snow on it, at least for Red Mountain. So if you're going out there, it's a good thing to maybe test it out. Okay, what is Afcan saying? So Afcan was predicting from like 10 to 20 centimeters. It is not necessarily what happened, at least not for us. We got a big fat 8 centimeters at the top today. But I could expect Kootenay Pass to have had more snow, and then that's the layer I'm talking about. Like that's what you wanted to go test. So yeah, that was today, this morning ish. So the forecast might have changed. And what they are worried about is a storm slab. So basically, just that new snow that came in. We have been seeing a bit more reactivity on the northeast. The storm came in from the southwest, so we've been having a bit more reactivity on the wind slabs on those aspects. So maybe you could go poke out there and find a wind slab. Okay, terrain to travel advice. I guess I'm reading that one to you guys. Basically, avalanche activity is unlikely when a thick melt freeze crust is present. That sentence was just created for red, I feel. At the surface, storm slab and sensitivity to triggering will likely increase throughout the day with the storm coming in. But the storm is pretty much done at this point. It was forecasted to finish around 5 or 6 today. And then it says pay attention to cornices. A lot of the large triggers that we've been seeing, a lot of the natural avalanches that we've been seeing have been through cornices release. Okay. The Afcan snowpack summary. Basically, 20 centimeters of new snow have fallen onto the north and east facing slope. New snow sits over the Malfreeze crest that I've talked at length already, not the March 9th, which will likely bond poorly. That is still to see. When this storm comes in warm, sometimes we have a pretty good bond up to that crust. So depending on where you are, it's a good thing to test it. And if you do have information on that crust, for example, drop them in. It would be interesting to know about it. And then up to 50 centimeters lies over the new crust from early March. Persistent weak layers may lingers within the upper snowpack. So the 50 centis, we haven't seen it at red. We only have a 30, maybe 20. But I know that there's more in Kootenai Pass. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Mid and lower snowpack, well settled, strong in most area. That's just to say that there is 10 Malfreeze crest in the mid pack. Okay, notable avalanches. A lot has happened. If you were planning to drive anywhere outside of the lower Kootenai zone, you got stuck on the highway probably in the last couple days. So this is a photo from the Kootenai Regional program. So that's kind of like based out of Nelson. A lot of these paths don't often go to the highway, and they did for this one. A little further, exciting to be in the Columbia zone. There was lots of large avalanches. There was size fours, pretty much like maxing out some of the path. I don't know if I've seen a size five, but there is multiple size fours, and that's just for Rogers Pass. There was some in I don't know, like the Rockies got some maximum length for avalanches as well for path that had slit earlier in the season. So there was definitely a lot of snow that were ready to move. A lot more in the Rockies that they were used to, and some paths would go once, twice a season at the maximum length possible. So that's pretty interesting to be an avalanche technician. We just thrive on that stuff. We just love it. Just that's just basically for scale, but we don't see it right now. But basically from tree to tree, and then that's an excavator in the middle, and that's like the debris was did I say it? Yeah, 25-meter deep debris. Pretty pretty significant. That one was on the railroads in Revi. Yeah, and then I know that Kootenai Pass also had multiple wet loose avalanches in a pretty big cycle. I have a feeling that if I try to play this, it's not gonna show really well. How do I? I can't see it. It's gonna go. Okay, so basically what we're seeing right now is just a cool video that's not really showing really well, but that's K Country in the Rockies, and you can see here is a little person for scale, but that basically that path went full size, as big as it can go for now. With climate change, we'll see about the future, but yeah, that's basically just the kind of avalanches that we're seeing. Just a lot of wet loose going to ground and creating new path because they're taking out trees at the maximum of their size. So that's up. That's to say that maybe at Valley Bottom, it's not looking too intense, but there is a lot of snow up top. So when you are traveling, try to think about how big an avalanche could go, and then just double it up because you think you're maybe in a safe spot. It's been taking out heli pickup that were thought to be safe. It's been going over roads that they've never seen. It's been going twice a season, and so it's been going like a lot bigger. And it's spring. Red Mountain has only so many more days to go. I know that people are looking at traverses outside of our zone, so this is just like a good reminder to think about what kind of terrain you're in and what um, size it can go, and to have safe travel. Um, yeah. Okay. Anyone has some cool avalanches or stuff that they want to share about the last couple months? Come on, guys. It's my first time presenting. Help me out here. No one has seen something or got spooked by the PWLs in February. Have you guys even skied?
I got one. In the warming, we saw some stuff on record going to size 2 from a tiny point release under the cornice to pretty damn wide right at the bottom of the top there. So wet loose in a triangle, like it's like a little river that starts to trickle and then goes in a triangle.
Yeah,
I've been seeing that like last week.
that's a good point with the warming and the warming that we're experiencing again next weekend. You can see a tree bomb go from a tree, and then it trickles down, and it could create one of the biggest avalanches you've seen in the region. The good thing about wet looses and wet slabs is that they don't necessarily start above you. Wind slab will, persistent weak layer will, but a wet loose or a wet slab, usually the trigger is your skis or something else, and it's always going to start below it. So that's a safe thing about this time that we're living in. Okay. Should I post him in? Have you guys? I think I saw like 7 men in the Rossland range this season, and that's okay. It's our little backyard, and I get it, and it's just the way it is. But you can drop a pin on the highway, like really far away from where you are if you want, and we will take that information, and it will really be helpful for us and for Big Red Cat that we're trying to go with little information. We try to dig as much as we can, but if you drop a pin on the highway about what kind of conditions you're seeing, even if it's just a photo, you don't even have to have the fancy vocabulary. You can just drop a pin, put a photo of what you saw, and it's really helpful. But if you're not that kind of person, you can email us. If you don't want it to be public, if you don't, I get it. It's the way it is. But if you have information that's interesting, please drop us an email. We're happy at Red to hear about that. We're happy to share it in the InfoX in a certain way that it's going to spread the knowledge, but not necessarily have people at your favorite spot the next weekend to go ski your secret spot, your secret stash, if you will. So drop us. It's weather at Red Resort. It can't be simpler than that. That's an email for all of you guys. Feel free. You can just drop the date in and the location ish that you were in, mostly the aspect and the elevation, and we're happy to know that knowledge. All right. That's the story of the night. We're not seeing the graph properly. Okay, but basically what it's saying is that it's gonna get warm again this weekend. Freezing level is gonna reach up to 1950. It's gonna be somewhat sunny. It's a really great time to maybe enjoy the last of Red Mountain Resort. I'm not saying anything. I don't know actually. I actually don't know. But I'm just saying it's gonna get warm. It's gonna kind of get sunny. It's a great time to go enjoy Red. And then we have this thing coming on. We'll see what's happening. So if it was supposed to be rain, it would be green. Right now it's this bluish color. It's saying up to 42 mils, but that's including the storm that we had today. But so basically it's saying up to 30 mils. And when I say mils, it's millimeters of volume, like of water, but that water translates into snow because the freezing level are going down after this weekend, and we're seeing about 1,700 meters freezing levels. So that's somewhat promising. So the winter might not be over yet. It might just be November all again. You just don't know. It's going to be full of rocks, and then maybe there's going to be a snow on top, but it's not over yet. So keep the hope. Um, yeah, more core shots. Yeah, I had new skis this year. It's not new skis, but you know what we say: tools, not jewels, right? You're out there in your skis. You're trying to just enjoy the snow. Okay, so basically the takeaways today. The recent snow above the March 9th melt freeze crust is what you really want to kind of like take a look at if you're testing and going out in the backcountry. It could be reactive. And then the Rossland range and the Kootenay Pass, older PWL, so persistent weak layers, are not reacting or propagating in tests anymore. That does not mean that they will not, but I reviewed all the tests in the last 2 weeks in the region, and a lot of them were really hard results or no results at all. So that's promising. Snowpacks in the other region is vastly different, and the storm slab could step down to lower persistent weak layer. So that's if you're going further north. A lot of this winter we've been seeing radically different snowpack than the rest of the province. So just keep that in mind if you are just trying to change a scenery from Rossland. I get it. Be cautious if heading out in the backcountry elsewhere where the more snow is the top reactive persistent weak layer, and it's gonna get toasty next weekend. That was it.
Thank you so much, Lau. Let's give her a big round of applause. Even though that was a sad update, it was a good, important update. Thank you so much. So we are going to put the QR codes here up on the screen. If you guys wanted to enter the raffle for tonight for Big Red Cats, Red Mountain tickets, or t-shirt, or enter for a sled, please feel free to grab a drink, grab a bite to eat, tip your bartenders, and then we'll be back to hear from everybody. All righty, we are going to hear from Anne-Marie talking about some backcountry medical. It should be a really informative update. She's got a lot of information to share with us. So bring her on up. Everybody give her a big round of applause. If you want it. And then this is for the presentation.
Okay. Thanks to everybody for coming this evening. I live here in Rossland, although I'm not actually here sometimes for many straight weeks. Oh, you can't? Okay. So my name is Anne-Marie Baribeau. I grew up in a small town in Quebec. Used to run around in the woods a lot. I used to look at maps. I briefly spent some time after I moved to BC working overseas doing humanitarian work in Bolivia and Uganda, and briefly in Costa Rica working with some refugee workers in the coffee industry. Thought for a long time that I was permanently going to expatriate out of Canada, but realized eventually that I wanted to move back and I wanted to work in a rural and remote setting, especially with Indigenous First Nations and rural people. I used to be an engineer. I had a job offer at Cominco in 1998. Not that the area wasn't good enough, but I just felt in my heart that that wasn't where I wanted to be. Eventually, I decided that if I went back and did some medical training, that this would allow me to work throughout Canada, hopefully, and mostly in BC, again, working with rural, remote and Indigenous populations. And the mountain medicine focus that I have developed was a side of personal interest, I would say. So,
We're not hearing you.
sorry, I'll have to do like a Barry White, hold my mic like this. So I am an emergency doc. I mostly work in areas up north, Terrace, Prince Rupert, Yellowknife, Williams Lake. Have worked in the Kootenays here locally. I'm on basically a provincial call-out list for emergency departments that are close to shutting down, which is a job that I really love. A few years ago, I decided to do a diploma in mountain medicine. What is that? I will speak a few words about that in the next couple of slides. One of my mentors for that program being a local person who I hope some of you have had the pleasure to meet. So mentors, I spent a lot of time with First Nations people and elders, and so I think part of my message for this talk is not just what I'm going to talk to you about later, which is basic first aid kit and what do I carry in my pack and what things to think about as a doctor with some maybe enhanced skills. So one of my mentors is John Baldwin. He is a very close friend from the days when I lived in the Coast Mountains. He and his mentor, John Clark, if any of you have spent time in the Coast Mountains, really were explorers and adventurers of the Coast Mountains. So I have a lot of inspiration to credit to John and his wife, Linda Bealey, who was a very close friend of mine, who unfortunately is up in heaven with somebody else I'm going to talk about soon. Mike Innes, I don't know if any of you know Dr. Mike Innes. He's a generalist, worked in Salmo, worked in the hospital and trail. He's definitely one of my biggest mentors. He's a guy, a person with a hell of a lot of skills, comparable to being a rescue rope trained SARDOC that we would normally only find in bigger centers like Vancouver and the Banff Park System. Kyle McLaughlin being one doc who does that kind of work. The next mentor is my late husband, Johannes Mühlegger, North Shore Rescue fellow. I was lucky enough to be together with him for 6 years, do a lot of ski touring, a lot of traverses and long trips in the Coast Mountains. Unfortunately died on the Compton Neve in 2009, but again, part of the legacy for me too, is how do I do my medical job and how do I engender the spirit of service to the community. So my own interests are, I call it pre-hospital medicine. So we've got a newer program called BC Med Response. We're trying to develop capabilities that are what I would call enhanced search and rescue training combined with being a physician. You know, one of the reasons I want to do this kind of work is actually because I really like working in interdisciplinary teams and I like learning a lot from all the people who I'm working with. And so the more of this I can do, then the more I can learn and the more interesting people I can meet. I also have an interest still in humanitarian medicine from back in the days when I decided to not leave the country permanently. My interest mostly in refugee camps, search and rescue, medical boats, emergency response. I have not yet committed to going into a conflict zone. That takes a whole discussion with family, etc. My next project is doing some more training in wilderness and expedition medicine, not because I want to go to Mount Everest, Mount Kilimanjaro. Actually, it really doesn't interest me that much. I'm more interested in trying to maybe be the tail gunner for trips involving Indigenous people, Indigenous youth, for social environmental justice trips, and obviously exploration being a big driver there. So the diploma in mountain medicine, I'm not going to talk about it for too long. It's basically, actually, I do want to say, because I work with a lot of people I really like in the search and rescue community here, as well as ski patrol and paramedics, and a lot of these programs are actually open to paramedics as well. It's not just physicians, and obviously open to nurses. Basically, this is what I call austere medicine. So we go to places where we have less resources and we try to make the best possible outcome. Again, I have a certain skill set, and a lot of the people around me have skill sets that I rely heavily on as well. So the interesting thing is when I finished my mountain medicine fellowship, I thought, what am I going to, what are you going to do with this? So I know people who go and work at Mike Wigley's heli skiing. That's not really my jam. I prefer to be non-mechanized. People on Whistle Blackcomb Ski Patrol. Luckily, I've worked with Ski Patrol here and in Whitewater. We used to live in Nelson and in Revelstoke. Sometimes I do some training with ACMG guides. I've done that at Retallick before. We just kind of supervise when they're doing rescue. Basically, things that you can do while you're waiting for the helicopter to arrive, because everybody just wants for the rescue to arrive so that the patient can be brought to a higher level of care. But that, as we all know, takes time. Even actually in rural Canada, that takes a lot of time with BC EHS and all the resources that we have, which are sometimes scarce. So the talk I've wanted to do for a long time, or actually I wanted to community activity, what it was just talking a little bit about advanced medical kits. So I had this idea that I could maybe say, well, here, if you want the most pared down first aid kit, here's exactly what you should have in it. So years later, I was just talking about this with Cameron, our search and rescue director. You kind of have an idea, but how many people feel like they're always tweaking their first aid kit? It depends on so many factors, right? So the reason I have these slides up is this is a beautiful 55-liter backpack, modular, all the things. We have these sorts of things for search and rescue. We have something similar, maybe not with such fancy modern packs at Ski Patrol, but you're really probably not going to carry that if you're going out for a weekend to a local hut. You know, if somebody wants me to be the expedition doc and then some of my stuff gets carried by someone else, sure. But that's not how we're operating, right? So one of my mentors, Dr. Steve Roy, these are some slides from here. It's pretty simple. Everything you could need, inexpensive and easy to replace, not too heavy and easy to carry. It's like a constant project to endeavor to get to this place, right? So the perfect kit is the one that you have with you. So obviously, it's a good idea to put a bit of thought into it. Um, whatever you bring is going to be, what do I really need? Excuse me, for the length of trip I'm going on compared to the actual weight. So um, one thing, the teaching generally, and I think this is probably not new for a lot of people, is um, what are the essential materials? So things that you actually can't duplicate, right? So tape, although you can cut strips in pieces of clothing. Gloves, meaning, now we're in this day and age of personal protective equipment, which I don't disagree with, but to be quite honest with you, even though I carry an advanced airway um, pocket mask, I would give rescue breathing mouth to mouth, just like I learned how to do when I was taking swimming lessons in the 80s. Scissors, safety pins, and I'm going to put a tag in here. Actually, sewing pins from your mending kit is actually even better because I'll talk about that later, but you can actually use them to suture a writing utensil, all that kind of stuff. So as much as people want to be able to do all these life-saving kind of heroic things, especially if you've got advanced training, the things that we're going to deal with mostly are obviously blisters, small cuts and scrapes, gastrointestinal symptoms, wrists and ankles. We'll talk a little bit more about fracture reduction later. And, am I going to be putting an airway in? Am I bringing in an advanced airway? Am I bringing a BVM? Most of the time not, again, like I said, unless we're going somewhere and the reason that I've been asked to go is in case the worst possible thing happened with somebody with, a heart condition or whatever the case may be. So again, some other properties. What's versatile? So a few years ago when I was in the Ape Range west of Tweeds River Park on the way to Bella Coola, Hannes, my partner, cut his wrist. And it looked like it wasn't really in the best area. And at the time, I actually had suture material and no, I didn't have any lidocaine. And I was very actually relieved when I learned. So number one, there's no point really in closing wounds. The best thing you can do for them, as most of you already know, is just irrigate the crap out of them and put a loose dressing. That way there's less of a nidus for infection. And if you are going to close something because you're concerned, you just take the needle with the eye and you put some dental floss through it. Pretty simple. So, dental floss, I don't bring dental floss on a long trip. I like to have a vacation from anal retentive dental hygiene. I mean, I do bring a toothbrush, but it's just good to know that the dental floss can come in handy. I've got a couple of, I said I was going to do a bit of show and tell here, sorry, blinding myself. So I've got a number of different, this is a pack full of gauze. So this takes a lot of volume. Abdo pads are great. Just buy some maxi pads or sanitary napkins or whatever we call them. And guess what else is great? Things like tampons. So anyhow, I feel like I've just embarrassed my brother talking about menstrual products, but it's like there are so many everyday compact things that you can take, because hemorrhage control obviously can be an issue. There's old school things up there like triangular bandages, gauze, tensor bandages, that sort of thing. I suspect that a lot of you have those things in your basic first aid kits to begin with. Modular, I was just talking about this with Cameron. Ideally, if you are carrying, the more you're carrying, the more you want to be able to split it up. As much as I like to say that I like to be the Sherpa and I don't mind having a bunch of stuff in my bag, sometimes it's nice to break things up and put them into somebody else's pack, especially if you're carrying ropes, et cetera, and you're taking your turn. Um, so this picture here is just a demo of I mean, as you know, dental floss, and you've got a needle, a straight needle, then you can do clothing repair, etc. So a lot of questions I get asked, I suspect that, I've just talked about a bunch of things that are probably pretty obvious to people. A lot of things I get asked is, oh, what medications do I need? And actually, what I want us to focus on here is symptom relief medications. These are over the counter. Analgesia, I should have crossed out the anxiolytic, but these are, I'm sorry, I'm a bit of a tech Luddite, so my slides and my photo quality are not super great. Um, Basically, symptom relief, anti-nausea, anti-diarrheal. Uh, the pain meds are, if you can take naproxen or ibuprofen, acetaminophen, of course. Um, then we start to get to sorry, I'm just going to go back to the allergy meds too. In the old days, we used chlortripalon, which is a great allergy med, but very sedating. You can Benadryl if you have people concerned about sedation, say they get injured and you're trying to walk them out. Then there are newer generation things like loratadine, these Reactine, Allegra type meds. Marching down here, um, a lot of these are what I would call nice to have, but you don't really need to have them. Lidocaine, topical lidocaine might be something that you want to have. You're going to need a prescription. I'm going to put my contact info at the end of this so that if somebody wants to contact me about outfitting some meds before a big trip, you can do that. Opioids and naloxone. So a lot of controversy, obviously, as we know. So I'm not going to push really heavy medications on people or insist they have them in their packs. I'll talk a little bit later about fracture management, and actually, I'll just say it now. The evidence is that the immobilization of a fracture with the most basic of material is a way better than having a bunch of fancy medications around. So, these are all like, when you go back to your simple, how do we just deal with this stuff, and we have a minimalist first aid kit. These are a lot of things that you can do without, getting complicated. Ketamine would be nice to have, midazolam. I actually have used Ativan on a trip before for somebody who was extremely anxious, but is it the first thing I put in my first aid kit? Not really. Maybe a long trip, that's a different story. So antibiotics get asked a lot about this. How many people have had terrible loose stool trying to travel to the backcountry or wherever? It's like, so one thing, and again, if I could say two antibiotics that I often carry would be ciprofloxacin, which is good for a lot of GI stuff that's undifferentiated, and amoxicillin clavulanic acid, which is called clavulin, which can be used for a whole bunch of different things, skin things, urinary tract infections. The rest of those medications, antibiotics, there's a lot of debate even amongst the medical community who has what, and again, it just depends on the length of trip. So in general, a lot of what I'm trying to say is a lot of what you can get is over the counter, and then if you do need a prescription to go on a trip, you can either ask your family doctor, not always easy to get into, or I'll leave my contact info for those of you who are local in case you need to. And with the use of these medications always come a discussion about like allergies, dependency, and all that kind of stuff. So just a couple of last words. So again, fractures. If you could see this properly, this is a manual build up of a traction splint. How many people have done this before? Put your hand up. If you can improvise, it's probably better than nothing. Essentially, you try to straighten the leg out. This is a commercial. This is a commercially produced splint. Yeah, a Sager. Do I carry one of those all the time when I'm in the backcountry? Probably not. I actually have a friend's son in Nelson who started making just the what would you call it? The basically like the what do you call it? Le chassis, the support structure out of what's that? The frame. There we go. Out of old nylon from old tents they weren't using anymore, with the slip them in with the ski poles and all that stuff, and it works quite well. So we don't. I would say by and large, I wouldn't necessarily be carrying one of these. But later on, when I'm just giving a brief overview of initial patient assessment, this is a place where people can really bleed and become unstable. So anything you can do to try to straighten that leg, even if it's not in a commercial splint, is going to be a bonus in terms of the patient's stability. So fractures. I did have a SAM splint here somewhere. Oh, I think I took it out. Okay, so this is a. I'm not sponsored, by the way, by anybody's company. So this is a SAM splint, which actually I probably got from a patient coming to the Emerge from the hill or something, and I cleaned it off and I reused it. So any of you who have the opportunity to grab one of these when it's not being used on a patient anymore and clean it and put it in your own first aid kit, I highly recommend it. So this can be bent not only to immobilize fractures, but also to build a improvisational cervical spine, like a C-spine collar, which, by the way, is a highly controversial piece of equipment, but that's a whole other story. If you have tensor bandages, if you have tape, tongue depressors, I'm mentioning all those things because these can be used not obviously to immobilize extremity fractures, and as a C-collar. All you need to do when you are molding them is to, maybe put a tensor over them. If you don't have a tensor, then you use strips of an old T-shirt or whatever it is. The reason I mention tape and a tongue depressor is actually because if you have anybody with finger fractures, it's not a bad idea to try to pull on them a little bit and immobilize them for pain control. A thermarest can actually be used as an improv femur fracture stabilization with a little bit of backup rigid material behind it. Say if you have a few SAM splints from different people in the group. Okay, hypothermia. So as I said, in your first aid kit, you have, if you have basic stuff for wound care, blisters, all the things that usually come up. If you have a SAM splint, you've got some fracture material. Hypothermia, if anybody's out for a prolonged amount of time, even as the patrol know, or if somebody's lost even around Rossland, is probably the biggest concern here for people who are trying to access people and respond to a call of an injured person. So easy things to have in your pack. So this is what I call a bothy. It's a Scottish word for basically like a little structure. This one is really light, looks a bit bulky, but it packs down and it's for 4 people. You can stay overnight in this thing. You can do CPR and keep the person warm underneath this structure. Okay, what happens is 4 people go in and they kind of hunch their backs, and then you basically do patient care around that person. I have carried in the past a sill tarp. It's good for transporting and packaging. It's pretty damn heavy. Probably a lot of you have a lighter one, but once I've gotten the bothy, I have to say I'm quite impressed that it provides a bit of a better cover for hypothermia management. Thermarest, even when I'm not out for multiple days, I often will just have a thermarest in my bag because the difference for any of you who have tried to sleep on snow for several days at a time between being on a thermarest and lying on the snow is quite significant. So small things, big differences. So you want for the person's head, anybody who has extra warm layers. And then usually when I head out with a group, I always say, who's got tea, who's got what in their thermos, because if they are not unconscious and they can drink, the warm hot liquids are really important. We can't do all the traditional, if you have hot packs with you, great. I don't carry hot packs necessarily. And then you can pack the axilla and the groin area, but I don't carry things like that. And I don't know how many people would necessarily take that kind of weight